Welcome everyone to today's Secure Bike Parking webinar with Move Minneapolis. My name is Catherine Windick. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm Outreach Manager with Move Minneapolis. I'll be your host for today. Thank you for joining us. Next slide, please. So today's agenda, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. There will be a poll. I'll do an introduction to Move Minneapolis. We'll have some presentations by the panelists, and then we'll have time for audience Q&A. Next slide, please. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll send a recording out to everyone who registered in the next couple of days. It'll also be available on our YouTube page. Once that's ready to go, we're going to ask you to use the chat to submit questions throughout the webinar. And then at the end, during the Q&A portion, if you'd like to ask your question live, just raise your hand to unmute and we'll call on you. Closed captions are now being enabled because I didn't do that yet. So one moment while I do that. Okay. And you should be able to, all right, we've got captions on. You should be able to control those either by clicking the CC button at the bottom of your screen, or if you don't see that, click on more next to that, or on that bottom screen bar, and that should take you to closed captions. Next slide, please. There'll be a short survey immediately following this webinar, and we're going to describe all images for accessibility. We'll put links in the chat while they're being spoken to, so if you want to watch the chat for those links, feel free. Next slide. And we're going to start off with a poll, and I ask for some grace while I do this because I haven't done a poll in a webinar before. So we're just going to see if this works. We have 3 questions. There's actually one more that's not on this slide. One question is, how often do you bike for transportation? So that's not just riding around for fun or exercise. It's for actually getting somewhere like a store or work. The second question is, what kind of bike do you typically ride? And I've got options there for classic or non-e-bike, an e-bike, non-cargo, cargo bike, e or otherwise, tricycle, hand cycle, or recumbent, fat bike, e or otherwise, or I don't ride a bike. And then the third question is, have you ever had a bike stolen or vandalized? And vandalized could mean, you got a component stolen, like a saddle, and not the whole bike, or a chain, or something, who knows, something stolen off of your bike, or damaged in some way when you had it parked in a public space or otherwise. So we're getting our poll results in, and I think I will close it pretty soon. We got just a couple more people. If you want to participate, these questions may come up in the course of the conversation at the end. So please do participate. I will close it in 10 seconds. All right, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So we've got people using their bike for transportation, the most people using it a few times a week, and then daily, a couple times a year, a few times a month, and some saying never. What kind of bike you typically ride is classic or non-e-bike is at the top, 74%, e-bike non-cargo, 13%, cargo bike, 11%, and I don't ride a bike, 2%. Then have you ever had a bike stolen or vandalized? 66% of people who answered said yes. So thank you for participating in the poll. I'm going to stop sharing that and continue on. Next slide, please. Now for our introduction to the Move Minneapolis team, we've got images on the screen here of the team. That includes Tiffany Orth, who is our executive director, John Barabs, who is our senior outreach manager, and myself, as I already mentioned, outreach manager, Catherine Windick. Next slide, please. And I'll just mention that John is on the back end running the slides, so thanks to him. Move Minneapolis is a nonprofit organization and the transportation management organization for downtown Minneapolis. Our mission is to empower people to choose sustainable transportation options through educational opportunities and by reducing barriers. So we've got images on the screen that show some examples of our work. The top image is of some people in a classroom at a presentation. This is a presentation I gave to a major downtown employer on planning multimodal trips. The other image is of a group bike ride. So some people standing around with bikes are about to depart on a Try It tour that my colleague John ran with another major downtown employer during Bike Month last month. Next slide, please. What we do, so we, again, we focus on downtown Minneapolis and we provide employer services, which could be anything from transportation benefits consultation, Metro Pass enrollment assistance, carpool coaching and registration at ABC ramps, bike parking and amenity consultation and connection to other vendors and entities. We provide commuter resources and consultations. We do provide a monthly e-newsletter that provides lots of resources and information for folks in the community. More on consultations in a moment, and sustainable transportation education. So that includes webinars like today's. We try to do regular webinars on timely topics that people are interested in. We do tabling for events like Bike to Work Day, as pictured on the screen. The top image is of Tiffany tabling at Bike to Work Day last month and speaking with a person on a bike, sharing resources. And then we also do tabling at employer benefits and wellness fairs, things like that. And then we produce an annual transportation summit. So the other picture on the screen is 5 people on a stage. This is from last year's transportation summit, the topic of which was businesses and construction and how to support businesses so that we can have the construction that brings us the transportation system that we need to get around safely. Next slide, please. So I mentioned I was going to go more into consultations. So customized consultations, on the screen, there's a QR code if you'd like to learn more about the consultations that I'll speak about. So these are free 15-minute sessions one-on-one with Move Minneapolis staff, available to anyone who is going downtown, whether you are going for work, visiting, go to school, or if you live downtown and want to learn about how to move around in downtown sustainably and get to downtown sustainably. Schedule a session with us. These are free. Repeat sessions are encouraged. You can learn more at bit.ly/moveMPLSconsult. And there's an image on the screen of the customized consultation graphic. Next slide, please. Commute Ambassadors. This is a program that Move Minneapolis runs. We just launched the application for the 2025 cohort. There's on the screen an image of some folks standing in a semicircle on a downtown street. This was part of a tour that we did of transportation amenities in downtown and infrastructure features. There's a QR code on the screen if you'd like to scan that to learn more about the Commute Ambassador program. It's a volunteer program open to downtown employees. You can learn more about how to promote sustainable transportation in your workplace and community. And you can learn more about the system at large and network with other like-minded individuals. Learn more and apply, again, by scanning that QR code, or if you could go back 1 second, John. The link is bit.ly/2025 MoveMPLSCA app. Next slide, please. Try It Tours. We have a logo, the Try It Tours logo on the screen that includes a bike, a bus, and the Move Minneapolis chevrons. This is a service of Move Minneapolis that are educational and hands-on demonstrations of downtown transportation options booked by employers and organizations rather than through individuals. You can scan the QR code on the screen now or visit bit.ly/tryittours to learn more. This is a newer program that we're launching under this moniker, and we're excited to work with employers and organizations to get these rolling. Next slide, please. So now to the topic at hand. I wanted to talk about secure bike parking in downtown Minneapolis. So Move Minneapolis, in the course of our outreach work, we often hear about how the lack of secure bike parking keeps people from biking downtown and in general, especially with more expensive bikes, whether they're e-bikes or otherwise. We are excited to see that this topic is gaining more attention. So on the screen, I have a screenshot from a recent news article that came out last Friday, highlighting that bike thefts are the most that they've been in the past several years. So it's clearly an issue. On the right of the screen, there's an image of our executive director, Tiffany, chatting with the reporter on Nicollet Mall, which is one of the proposed sites of the secure bike parking pilot, just talking about how we hear about this in our work and how it's holding people back from biking places that they want to go. Next slide. On the screen here, I have a quote that I'll read. It's from the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration. This is from a training around biking and pedestrian and bicycle safety. There's some graphics icons on the screen of people biking, walking, and rolling. And the quote says, while providing secure bicycle parking is not the entire solution to the problem of theft, it certainly can help, and it can increase bicyclists' comfort in leaving their bicycles unattended. As a result, and the highlight is my emphasis, many bicycle owners may be encouraged to make bicycle trips they might otherwise forego, end quote. Next slide, please. For the last part of my little intro section, I did want to note that one of our panelists will be speaking about a current private amenity. Other panelists will be talking about a future public amenity. And there is one amenity I wanted to highlight that is currently open to the public and free. This is the Metro Transit Bike and Ride. It's located in Ramp B at 516 2nd Avenue North. This is run through Metro Transit. There's an image on the screen of the bike and ride facility. So it's a secure bike parking area. You can scan the QR code on the screen or visit bit.ly/MT bike and ride to learn more and to register to use this already existing free and open to the public amenity. Next slide, please. So with that, I want to make sure to thank our speakers for their time, expertise, and work on these initiatives. We're going to split the speakers up. I'm going to start with Hailey, and then I'm going to introduce the others after Hailey speaks. So next slide, please. So I'd like to welcome and introduce Hailey Polk, Tenant Experience Coordinator at 60 South 6th, a Transwestern property. Hailey's role at the building is hospitality focused, providing tenants ample opportunities to be involved in the building community and engage in the amenities they offer. Hailey has a teaching and graphic design background and was excited to design the graphics and help decide on aesthetics and layout for the 60 South 6th bike room refresh last summer that we're going to hear about. So Hailey, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Catherine. So like she said, I work on the property management team here at 60 South 6th. It's a 40-story office tower in downtown Minneapolis. It's the formerly RBC Plaza. You can see it on the screen here. So our current ownership acquired the building in 2015, and that's when the bike room was first established here. It is open only to tenants. But it's a big building, so that's a lot of potential bikes that are coming downtown and parking at the building. So our ownership and the company I work for are always looking for ways to improve the tenant experience. So that's essentially my role. And we partner with tenants and their employees to make changes based on feedback and survey responses. So next slide is going to show what our current bike room looks like. So the bike room was already secure. It's located in our parking garage, but this is what it looks like now. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback about the secure safety of it. And we just wanted to make a couple upgrades just to help the commuters out a little bit. Next slide will show kind of how we secure our specific area. So it's kind of an inconspicuous corner in our parking garage. It's a little bit of a unique situation where we've got a staffed valet team 24/7, or not 24/7, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so that's when when the doors open automatically for people, but they can exit anytime. But the bike room specifically requires a waiver, acknowledging rules and regulations. There's security cameras nearby that we can access. And once somebody signs a waiver, access is added to their building badge. And a bonus, it's located right next to our locker rooms in our fitness center. So it's a nice, area of the building for people to come in, and then they can get situated before they head up to their office. Next slide. So this is a picture of our bike room before we did the refresh. So it looks very similar. We didn't end up changing any of the racks that were there, but we've got just enough for our building currently. If we have more people accessing and needing space, we'll probably chat about how we can add some more in there. But super basic. We just wanted to make a few structural and cosmetic changes to improve upon what was already there. So that's on the next slide. We sourced our structural updates from Darrow. So we added a fix-it station and an air pump. And by a tenant request, super avid biker suggested some lock docks. So people weren't claiming the bike racks if they like went out at lunch with their lock or whatever. So yeah, they can park their locks on the wall there. Yeah, next slide. And then these are some images of our current cosmetic updates that we made. So I got to design the graphics for the room, and we painted just to give it a little bit of an up, like a facelift. And then we refinished the flooring and we added a slow closing door because the door was hitting people on their way out and we didn't want that. So yeah, because we've got the staff and everything nearby, the slow closing door is monitored regularly. So let's see, next slide. So yeah, after we did all of those things, it kind of came to completion in October of last year. So this is our first summer actually having a fun looking bike room with all the updates. So we've just gotten some good feedback, especially from Sarah and Luke from HNTB, one of our tenants. So yeah, they've been super appreciative, and that's been really great to hear that. So would definitely recommend if you're a property manager, work for commercial real estate, if you don't have a bike room, it's a really, really nice amenity to have for your tenants. So I think that's all I got.
Thanks, Haley.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
your presentation and look forward to hearing more from you during the Q&A section. Thank
Mhm.
you. Next, I'm going to introduce folks working on the City of Minneapolis bike parking pilot. So we've got Max Gonzalez, who is the Interim Public Works Project Manager with the City of Minneapolis. Max has been working on mobility-related projects for the city for the past 3 years. He holds a Masters of Public Administration and has always been interested in transportation-related topics. Max is a co-chair of a statewide shared mobility collaborative working to increase shared mobility options across the state. He's invested in connecting communities and making multimodal options more accessible. Andy Lambert is CEO of Cyclehoop US and is a lifelong Minnesota resident, has been working to get more people cycling through grassroots advocacy and entrepreneurship for over 15 years. His time as a bicycle courier for Peace Coffee in the early 2000s ingrained the belief that transportation infrastructure is the most effective way to influence how people move within their communities. Now, as CEO of Cyclehoop US, he and his team innovate physical infrastructure solutions to make cycling safer and more convenient for all ages and abilities. He is a former Bike MN board chair, recently served on the Minneapolis Bicycle Advisory Committee, and will soon be an assistant librarian for the Minneapolis Cargo Bike Library. And then we have Shabazz Stuart, founder and CEO of Oonee. Shabazz is widely recognized as one of the nation's foremost experts on micromobility infrastructure. He has extensive experience that includes urban policy, public space management, and implementing public-private partnerships. Prior to Oonee, Stuart was the Deputy Director of Operations for the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership, where he oversaw a portfolio of more than 1 million square feet of public space. Stuart is also a prominent New York transportation advocate and sits on the Advisory Council of Transportation Alternatives and is a board member of Streets PAC. Welcome to all three of you, and I'm going to turn it over to Max for your presentation.
Thank you, Catherine. I am very excited to be here and to talk about our secure bike parking pilot. I apologize, I'm a little under the weather today, so please bear with me. You can go on over to our next slide. So the secure bike parking pilot, we are partnering and have signed a license here with Oonee, as well as working with Cyclehoop to provide some options for secure bike parking, not only downtown, but throughout the Minneapolis boundaries. And so we had to gauge the demand And also the demand for secure bike parking is increasing as some of the bikes are getting more expensive. E-bikes are growing in popularity, as well as folks are adopting cargo bikes to complete some of their trips that they traditionally would have taken on transit or via automobile. And so some of the factors that are increasing the demand for the secure bike parking is a recent state tax credit that is continuing in 2025. I know that there's some potential modifications to that that are still in the works, but the state tax credit has allowed additional folks to purchase e-bikes and utilize them for their transportation needs. Um, Additionally, cargo bike usage is increasing, and we have received lots of feedback similar to Move that people don't feel comfortable locking expensive bikes and e-bikes to the outside traditional bike racks, meter hitches, and some of the other infrastructure that the city has put out on the current cityscape. Some of the current solutions also are targeted more at commuters and are inflexible. Folks would have to sign some either year-long leases or month-long. And so looking for some of the alternative options that people are needing has been really important for this secure bike parking pilot. And also, Catherine highlighted one of the public secure bike parking rooms that is over in Ramp B, but there are currently some limited public options. People can lock their bikes and have them secure, so that way they don't come out to either stolen or vandalized vehicles. Next slide, please. So shifting on over into what our pilot is currently looking like, we have, like I mentioned, a license agreement signed with Oonee. It's a 3-year pilot duration where we're anticipating the installation and network availability to be completed here either late summer, early fall. There's a lot of coordination that is going on with both other jurisdictions, county, private property owners, and so we're hoping to have all of the network up and available either late summer, early fall. Some of the options that we are looking at include pods that are a little bit larger, walk-in secure facilities that can support anywhere from more than 24 to 30 bikes, depending on the configuration. Also, some of the lights or minis, those are some smaller facilities that are meant to fit either in a little bit more constrained right-of-way space or fit within a on-street parking space. And then also bike hangers. Some of the bike hangers are currently deployed and utilized in University of Minnesota campus and some other locations throughout Minneapolis. But the bike hangers can also accommodate some of the cargo bike options for some of the larger cargo bikes that people are utilizing. And one of the key aspects that we wanted to highlight for this pilot information is to increase the accessibility and the options for folks to encourage some of the bike utilization and transition to biking. So these facilities in the pilot program are free to the user. Shabazz and Andy will talk a little bit more on how to get signed up for that platform and what that platform will look like. But that was one of the key aspects that we were looking for in the pilot is that the options would be free for the users. You can go on over to the next slide. And so what I wanted to highlight here is that the location planning has been one of the larger lifts because we have to gauge both demand, available space in the right of way, and what partners to coordinate with. With the secure bike parking pilot, it is being funded through advertising. And so some of the kiosks will be in areas that need power, and some of the facilities need power. I'll let Shabazz and Andy talk a little bit on the facilities themselves, but power needs has been one of the bigger constraints for citing these locations. Our first iteration is also taking into account some future developments as e-bikes and battery charging and swapping become more increased, and the battery options are changing. So that way, Shabazz will talk a little bit to some of the facilities in the future will have the capabilities for charging. Um, on the right, there's a picture that I took of some screenshots of some of our potential locations that we are looking to have some of the bike parking facilities. There looks to be about 7 or 8 downtown, as well as some additional in Northeast, South Minneapolis, and some future expansions at some of our mobility hubs, both in North and a little bit outside of the downtown core. You can go ahead to the next slide. I believe, yep, that's the last one. So my contact information is there at the bottom. Again, my name is Max Gonzalez. You can send on over any questions or email me at maxgonzalez@minneapolismn.gov. I'll turn it on over to Andy, I believe.
Thanks, Max, and thanks, Catherine, and everyone at Move Minneapolis for all the work you're doing and for hosting this really exciting meeting on this exciting topic. My name is Andy Lambert. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the CEO of Cyclehoop US, based here in Minneapolis, about a 5-minute walk from the Mississippi River. And I'm here to tell you about who Cyclehoop is, what we do, why we do it, because we are one of the partners involved in the Minneapolis Secure Parking Pilot. Next slide. So Cyclehoop designs and manufactures active transportation infrastructure. We've been doing this since 2008. Our parent company is based in London, and in 2022, we opened our operations in North America based here in Minneapolis. We're doing design and manufacturing here in Minnesota. We have distributors in Canada and Mexico. And so we're really looking at all of North America in terms of bringing our experience and expertise to the continent as a whole. Our primary focus is to co-create networks of fully accessible, on-demand, secure cycle parking facilities focused on cities worldwide. Like I said, our parent company is based in the UK, but they have distribution partners throughout Western and Eastern Europe into the Nordic countries, and Cyclehoop US is serving North America. We're really focused on, and we really love doing community-centered collaborations. And I use the word co-create when I'm talking about building networks, because we don't do any of this alone. It's critical to partner with community-based organizations so that they're at the table, their voices are heard, they have decision-making authority, and that they embrace secure parking, and that it actually serves a need that they have. So everything that we do is in a spirit of collaboration. We also work to build and contribute to the social infrastructure that drives demand for more active transportation infrastructure. Because without the public support for it, there's not political support. Without political support, you don't get policy and funding and all of that. So it really comes down to winning the hearts and minds of people in their communities and connecting the dots and showing how more accessible active transportation infrastructure has a huge impact on quality of life. Next slide. So we do these things in a number of ways. To date, since 2013, Cyclehoop has installed 7,400 bike hangars worldwide. That's about 44,400 secure parking spaces. The majority of the bike hangars that are installed in the UK and Greater London are accessed on a subscription basis. And despite having close to 5,000 bike hangars in Greater London alone, there's still a growing waiting list of over 50,000 people. So in a city like London, let's say New York, perhaps, even on down to smaller cities like Minneapolis, the need and demand for secure parking is there, and it's growing. Recently, we've created a parking app, which enables people to use our facilities in an on-demand basis rather than a subscription. And so far, we have 44 bike hangars available for on-demand use throughout the UK and in Edinburgh and London. And I say 44 plus because we're adding more online every day. We hope to put the hangars online for the on-demand access at the U of M here shortly. We're working with the university in Quebec to do that as well. So we're crossing the pond with our on-demand app. We're also involved in the creation of the first cargo bike library in Minneapolis, something that we're super excited about. The two logos that you can see on the bottom of the screen that say Powered Cycle Diamond and Pedal Cycle Diamond, those are security ratings that a third-party testing facility has given our bike hanger. Because secure bike parking is our bread and butter, the actual security of that facility is important. So we pay a third party to test the security. We basically pay them thousands of dollars to try to break into our bike hanger, and then they grade it based on how difficult it was. Our bike hangers consistently get highest marks in their testing curriculum. So, and then the picture that you can see on the right-hand side is an example of the type of community event and outreach that we do, that we support, that we celebrate. This is from the Pride Ride in London last year. And we believe that cycling should be open and accessible and in a big tent kind of thing for everyone. So we're always on board for supporting and being involved in inclusive cycling events. And we use the term cycling intentionally instead of bicycling because cycling incorporates four-wheeled bikes and trikes and adaptive cycles and all that. So that's one thing that's really important to us, and it's part of our DNA. Next slide. And then, of course, the reason why we do it is because theft is a huge issue. And you can see the results from the poll, just from the people on this call. 2/3 of you have experienced theft or vandalism to your bike. In the UK, we've seen that about 320,000 cycles are stolen a year. Like Catherine said earlier, the MPD reported over 1,400 thefts last year. That's a 6-year high. And that's just reported thefts. We would estimate that that number could easily be double because oftentimes theft and things and involvement of police doesn't get reported. About 2/3 of bike theft victims cycle less as a result of that experience, and a quarter of those victims just give up cycling entirely. This is based on data that was collected from Transport for London. We've also seen that about 60% of people who continue to cycle after experiencing theft buy a cheaper bike. It may not be as enjoyable to ride. It may be more expensive to maintain. It's not a great situation. All in all, we estimate that theft costs victims in the UK about 32 million pounds a year. That's 43 million US dollars equivalent. Next slide. So in 2013, Cyclehoop saw the increasing negative effects of theft. And so we started a secure bike parking network in London. It's grown steadily since then. You can see on the screen here a picture of 2 bike hangers side by side. They take up the space of 1 car parking space on the street. You park and lock your bike inside the hangar. We provide instructions on how to properly lock your bike because that is a critical piece in secure bike parking. Yeah, so it continues to grow to this day. Next slide. Here's a picture of Greater London with pin drops showing all the bike hangars throughout London. Like I said, there's a little close to 5,000 hangars throughout Greater London. There's some open areas there. Those are because the councils in those areas manage their own hangars, but we manage the rest here. And we hope to show a similar map to this to other cities in North America in the coming years because density is critical, and this is something that we think should scale. Next slide. This is just an image about showing the app that we created. There's basic functions through the app. You can make reservations, you can pay if that's how the program is set up, you can report issues, etc. Next slide. Here's some examples of hangars in North America. So far, we've installed about 50 throughout North America. number at the U of M. The picture in the upper right is Coach Balto. He's got a cargo bike hanger in front of his house in Portland. A picture in the lower right are 2 hangars on the street in San Francisco as part of a pilot with the SFMTA. Next slide. And these are just some of the clients that we are working with in North America. It's primarily municipalities, transit agencies, universities, but we also work with a number of property managers. Residents are calling us for information about secure bike parking. And then, of course, the local favorite, the Minneapolis Cargo Bike Library. And that's all I have. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Shabazz.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shabazz Stuart. I use he, him pronouns. And I want to acknowledge my role here as the carpetbagger. I'm here in Brooklyn, but I've been really blown away and just grateful for the hospitality shown by both Move Minneapolis and the city and Cyclehoop. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk with you about our work. Next slide. So, our focus alongside Cyclehoop is less of an OEM. An OEM stands for original equipment manufacturer, and more of a developer, an operator, and a group that's focused on scale. We want to unlock the potential of the bicycle and the micromobility conveyance by focusing on how we can build networks of infrastructure that support riders, that make the experience as easy, seamless, and frictionless as possible. Next slide. And so what we focus on are charging, parking, and eventually, access to supporting services like repair and maintenance through mobile. We do not have one particular form factor. We actually work with OEMs like Cyclehoop to innovate, iterate, and white label their form factors and install them as part of a cohesive network. Hopefully one day in cities across the country, but right now working in New York, Minneapolis, and a few others. We've talked a little bit less about charging, but our belief is that as e-bikes become more and more prevalent, that charging and parking will be part and parcel. Next slide. I think this has been well covered, in the previous presentations, but I will say that here in New York, 1 out of every 4 households has experienced at least one bike theft. It is a major reason that people choose not to ride, and that people who ride choose not to ride more often. And this is something that you saw highlighted in Transport for London's data with Andy. But we believe that if we can make cycling not just safe, but also convenient and reliable at scale, i.e. parking and charging are universally accessible, then we will be in a better position to recognize the 30% mode share that we see in cities like Amsterdam in the Netherlands, here in the United States. Next slide. And so, our cornerstone in terms of design has been how do we make infrastructure that supports micromobility and cycling placemaking friendly, advanced, modern, and provide users with a seamless, frictionless experience, and most importantly, interoperable. And so, my partner is an architect, and we take great effort to create an experience where even people who are not using the facility actively, i.e. a pedestrian, will appreciate walking by a station, and ideally will find something in it for them, whether it be seating, whether it be ambient lighting, whether it be an improved streetscape, whether it be planting. Long story short, we're looking for ways to integrate micromobility infrastructure into the overall fabric of the city in the same form or fashion that you would see a bus shelter or a newsstand or other form of street furniture inside the fabric of the city. Next slide. This slide is a little bit, I think, a little bit messed up in the PDF, but this is our network in New York City. It looks a little bit different on the pages file, but we have about 15 stations in and around New York City. We have over sort of 6-year history, gotten 4 cities. Minneapolis is one, but New York is another one. Washington, D.C. is another one. Jersey City is another one to do secure bike parking RFPs citywide. And so our hope would be here in New York and now in Minneapolis to establish citywide universal parking and charging systems that are open to everyone, regardless of race, class, means, or creed. Next slide. As I mentioned before, we've been working alongside our partners in New York City, Northern New Jersey, and now in Minneapolis. We'd like to highlight two of our projects that have been particularly successful. Hudson Square, we have a pod that provides 24 parking spaces on a traffic triangle that's pictured here. That traffic triangle was originally a sort of barren public plaza. The community was fairly skeptical that secure bike parking could work. There was nothing on the plaza, but as you can see in the photo, there's very much traffic that surrounds this area, and on the bottom left or bottom right, there's a entrance to the Holland Tunnel, which is one of New York's busiest vehicular tunnels. So we came in, we worked with the community to design a mural. We installed plantings, and finally the pod that provides secure bike parking to the public at no charge. And this entire thing was underwritten by advertising, which not only underwrites the capital costs, but also the ongoing operating costs, enough so that the facility can be free to use. And then on the right, we have this is an installation in Jersey City where we have about 8 or 9 stations installed as part of a 30 station build out. We just installed our most recent station last week. And the goal is to make charging and parking universal. Jersey City is a fairly small municipality compared to Minneapolis and New York, but I think it's the first city to take on a model where, first city in the US, I should say, because London is 30,000, far, I think, more than any domestic city. But making parking and charging accessible to everyone in both a mixed use environment, also a residential environment, and a transit orientated intermodal environment. Next slide. As I mentioned before, even though our footprint is largely in New York right now, we are working in cities across the country quietly to lay the groundwork for citywide programs. These include Washington, D.C., New Jersey, partnership with New Jersey Transit, Long Beach, West Palm Beach. We work with the MBTA in Boston, Miami, and Denver. Next slide. So that is it for me. I'm looking forward to the questions and the conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Wonderful information. We've got a lot of good conversation and questions coming through in the chat. I'll encourage people to continue putting their questions in. I'm not sure we'll get to all of them, but I will send questions in a follow-up email that we don't get to live. So thank you again to our speakers. I'm going to go with the most recent question that just popped in the chat, because I think this is a good one. Molly, if you would like to unmute to ask your question, feel free, or would, I guess.
Sure thing.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
So I really am just focused on demand. I don't know how we can accurately get demand, but I do want to make sure that we have these facilities where they will be used. So that's the context for my question. I didn't see, at least I didn't see, maybe they're there, pilot locations in North Minneapolis. I saw them in other areas of Minneapolis. So I think I heard that the facilities would be considered near mobility hubs, which, as I understand mobility hubs, this sounds like a great idea. Are the facilities needed elsewhere? And is this all based on demand? Thank you.
Yeah, I can jump into that. This is Max from the City of Minneapolis. Thanks for the question, Molly. Demand has been one of the areas that we don't have a whole lot of data from. We've got putting into the demand, what we've looked at is some of the instances of where bike theft has occurred and some of the bike counts that we have available, as well as some of the data that we get from the shared mobility side. And so one of the areas someone else in the chat brought up that they would love to see it around the chain of lakes and like some of the park board areas. Advertising is where it becomes a little bit tricky because some of the jurisdictions have have restrictions on advertising. And so Going back to the question on in North Minneapolis, right now we've got 2 locations that we're evaluating based on the right-of-way space that are in North Minneapolis that we have to work with both the park board and just some of the other jurisdictional partners. But during the course of the pilot, we're looking to expand the network. And so initially we're starting with 15 to 20 locations, but we're looking to expand that network. I know that we've got a couple expansions planned for some of the mobility hub sites, which are citywide. And if there's additional suggestions on where people want to see the bike parking facilities located, I know they've been dropped in the chat, but feel free to add additional ones.
Thanks, Max. Shabazz or Andy, did you want to add anything to that?
I would just add one thing regarding the demand. Well, maybe 2 things. So like I kind of alluded to earlier, centering the community and people who live in the areas that we hope to serve are having their buy-in and support is critical to the success of this. And so it's through community connections and working with neighborhood organizations and advocacy groups on the ground who know the communities and know the traffic patterns and modes that people want to use will be another great way of accessing demand. So not only through data that can be reported, but through anecdotal data and evidence from partners on the ground. So I think that'll be really important. And then because this is paid for by advertising, obviously a lot of the ad kiosks need to go in high market value or high ad value locations. And so our hope is that some of those high value ad locations will offset the cost of other hubs and locations in areas of a city, whether it's Minneapolis or wherever, that have lower ad value. And so we can kind of offset those costs and spread it around because, making this accessible to everyone, regardless of zip code, is really critical to the success and just the whole reason for doing this.
Yeah, and I'll underscore that last part because I think what's really important to us is that we create a system that is elastic enough to accommodate growing demand and provides universal access regardless of race, color, class, or creed or means. And so while we are generating, I think about 75% of system revenue through advertising, the advertising footprint will allow us also to place stations, with no advertising potentially in parts of the city that that demand supports. And so I really want to avoid the impression, if people are kind of thinking this, that we are going to be dictated, our location will be dictated strictly because of where advertising is interesting and profitable. Advertising is a way to underwrite this, but we actually want the infrastructure footprint to be fairly useful and flexible.
Thanks all. I have a question for Hailey from an anonymous participant asking whether 60 South 6th has plans for any parking spots for devices that cannot be easily rotated 90 degrees. For example, box front bikes, tricycles. And I wanted to add on to that question. I guess I'm not sure 100% if this is asking about vertical storage or just difficulty navigating around tight corners and things like that. But if it's not addressing the hanging racks, I am curious about for people who can't lift bikes up vertically, any plans for alternative ways to store bicycles at 60 South 6th?
There are plans. We have a rack. We just haven't. We have got some other things that we've got to set in place before it's available to everybody, but it's in the works.
Wonderful. Thanks, Hailey. And it looked like for the city side, it looks like the pods have potential hanging racks, but the hangers are all on the ground. So there's going to be a variety of ways for people to store their bikes, depending on the kind of bike and all of that as well.
Can I just add in? I do see a few questions around coming in around vertical storage.
Yeah.
We understand that vertical storage is a challenge. And so our facilities here in New York, and we would expect our facilities in Minneapolis that deploy vertical storage do employ lift assist racks, either in 50% or 100% of the indoor spots. and lift six racks can typically accommodate bikes by hoisting them of up to 75 to 80 pounds. And so I just want to make sure that people don't come away with the impression that we're taking an ableist approach to critical infrastructure.
Thanks for that. I know we've been answering a lot of questions in the chat already. With the panelists, if there's any questions that you've already answered that you think would be really helpful to just restate for the general public, also on the recording, people watching the recording can't see the chat. So are there any things that stand out to you, the things you've already gotten asked? I know I saw something about having multiple apps for using a bike hanger versus a pod. Max, I think you addressed that one. If you could speak to that question.
Yeah, one of the goals with the secure bike parking pilot is to have a network. And so trying to minimize the different apps that people would have to download, but also take into account some of the alternative options. Not everyone has a smartphone. And so Shabazz or Andy, if you want to talk about some of those kind of alternative options and how
Yeah.
people can actually access. That'd be
And
great.
I'll talk about what we already do right now. And again, we're not an ad company, nor are we we are a company that's invested purely in figuring out how to bring this infrastructure and asset class into the mainstream at scale in cities across the country. So the best practice here would be you have availability through one primary smartphone app, but also potentially synergy with others. And so if you have an app that you use for transit, you have an app that you use for another purpose, they could be backwards compatibility with that as well. That's what we see with bike share, where there's one main app, but maybe there's there's compatibility through others. And then finally, we hand out key cards here in New York free of charge. We understand that I can only speak from my New York perspective because I'm a bit ignorant about what the status in Minneapolis, but here in New York, about 15% of folks don't actually have access to smartphones. And so, we consider key cards to be quite critical.
Great, thanks. I saw a question that was answered in the chat about how many bikes fit in one hanger. And I know Andy, this I think was directed to Cyclehoop, but how many bikes are we talking about compared to car parking spaces?
Yeah, so one of the pictures in my slides showed two bike hangers side by side. Each bike hanger can hold 6 bikes, and all of those bikes are then locked to a rack inside the hanger, which is secured to the frame of the hanger with high security bolts. And you can put 2 hangers side by side in one car parking space. So that's one car parking space converted to 12 secure bike parking spaces. We also have a cargo bike hanger, which is designed for long cargo bikes. It's designed around the longest available commercial cargo bike, which is the Urban Arrow family bike. And that one is designed to hold 2 cargo bikes.
Great, yeah. Thank you. And I'd like to invite, if anyone has a question they'd like to ask live and unmute, invite that. Anyone interested in that? Otherwise, I can keep looking at the chat here.
Can I just address one question that's coming up in the chat?
Sure.
So Oonee is not an advertising company, and the advertising has no role operationally in the secure bike parking and charging network. In fact, some of the deployments that we're working on here in New York and beyond are ad-free and completely paid for by the city. The reason we deploy advertising is because advertising is a common way to pay for street furniture like bus shelters and newsstands, and we export the actual advertising to a third-party firm. So want to make that clear. It doesn't actually have anything to do with how the facilities function day to day.
Great. Thanks for the
clarification. I would just add that related to the ads, if there's concerns about what kind of ads you would be seeing, it's all the ads would be following the same protocols and guidelines that Metro Transit follows. So you won't see guns, drugs, alcohol, tobacco ads on the kiosks. It would be similar ads that you would see at a bus stop.
Great, thank you. This was a question that I know I had when I first learned about the bike hangers. Can you talk about snow clearing around the facilities when they're placed on streets or in surface lots? Whether that's pods or hangers or both?
Yes. We, as part of the license agreement, Oonee has to maintain the surrounding areas to the pods, and that includes snow maintenance. But also in the sighting locations that we've had, we have folks from the city that are looking at some of the aspects from snow maintenance, plowing, drainage, to make sure that those aren't impacted negatively with the placement of these locations. Shabazz or Andy, feel free to add some additional information, but I think
Yeah, I mean, I can just shortly add that we take on snow removal obligations here in New York. New York is not Minneapolis. You guys are or the winter weather OGs, right? And so we would expect that we would work with a contractor to proactively remove snow in accordance with the city's SLAs. And again, that's why the ad revenue in terms of the operating costs is so critical.
Great, thank you. This is a question that I want to make sure I get to Hailey. Do you have any advice for other property management companies that are looking to add or improve a bike room as a tenant amenity? I know you kind of said it, that your parting words were that this is highly recommended that folks look at this, but any things that you would say to folks who are thinking about adding a bike room, maybe that one doesn't already exist in their building, any advice you'd give?
I mean, so I started here a year and a half ago, and this was like the updates were already kind of in the works. And the bike room had existed for 10 years. But I mean, you're welcome to reach out if you've got specific questions. But yeah, I would say having like a waiver that people sign, and so we know who's like getting access to the room, has been pretty smooth process. And just, yeah, kind of having that list of people who have access to this room. And yeah, and it's pretty simple too. It's just part of the parking garage, like the just square structure of it. So it's a construction project, but yeah, I am happy to answer any questions and bring in anybody else on my team too, if you've got questions.
Hailey, do you have any idea of a cost estimate when they originally put it in?
Not sure. It wasn't a Transwestern run building
Okay.
at that time either. So I don't have the numbers on that, but it used to be like this 4-floor food court in here. So actually the place where it was a steakhouse. So I think they just might have taken existing walls and kind of revamped it that way.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one last question, and I think this is a hot topic. I know a lot of folks are hearing about e-bikes and fires, and I wanted to ask about both like any things. I know Max, you answered a couple of questions about e-bikes and charging in these facilities, and I think Shabazz you did as well. But concerns around that with these facilities with e-bikes charging, and what I mean, I think you noted that there is charging infrastructure within them. So anything you'd like to add, just call out about e-bike charging and safety.
Is this something that you want me to respond to? So I'll do it quick. It's 1:59, so I'm gonna be respectful of everyone's time. Look, we operate charging facilities here in New York and northern New Jersey, and frankly, we've never had a situation where a e-bike has combusted while actively charging. And in our battery swapping facilities, there are a number of safeguards that prevent that from taking place. The majority, or the vast majority of circumstances where combustion occurs, and New York has been at the forefront of this because of our large delivery force on e-bikes, is when batteries are subpart black market batteries or gray market batteries are being charged inside a residence, usually 5 or 6 at a time with a makeshift charger. And so that's not going to occur in the network. And even if it did, we have a number of safeguards within the infrastructure to, for example, shut off power if there is if combustion starts to occur. So we feel the risk is overall relatively minimal.
Great, thank you. And we are at 1 o'clock with that. So John, next slide, please. Just want to wrap it up. Thank you again to all of our panelists for providing this information. I've got some information on the screen. Follow us at moveminneapolis.org. Sign up for our newsletter. Follow us on socials, all that stuff. If you like what we're doing, please tell us in the survey that you're going to see when you leave. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.